Well, hello everyone. Thank you again so very much for sitting back down and joining me today. It's so very nice to meet you if I haven't already met you in some way, shape, or form. My name is Ryan. In today's video, we are going to be going back down, doing our dive, our perusing through the Adamson Masterpiece Collection box set from Severin Films. We started this off with doing Halfway to Hell, and we are continuing now with Psycho A Go-Go and the subsequent The Fiend with the electronic brain. Now, why are we doing two particular ones? They're about as close as we're going to be getting to really just covering one film. Obviously, if you had purchased or were even interested in the Adamson Masterpiece Collection box set from Severin Films, then you are going to be aware of the exploitative, recut nature of Adamson and how he treated his work. So, with that in mind, there's actually a total of 4 cuts in this particular film altogether, with one being virtually completely lost and another one that was released about 7 years, 6 or 7 years after the original, being Psycho A Go-Go, or what we're going to be assuming or calling the original. And we'll get to that when we get into that point of the timeline, because that's going to be, from my understanding, I haven't seen it yet, but from my understanding, that is going to be literally completely different from what we're going to be talking about today. So now, what are we going to be talking about today? Today, we are going to be talking about Psycho A Go-Go. Now, Psycho A Go-Go was released in 1965. Originally, it was titled Echo of Terror, and as I said before, that version of the film, that cut of the film, is virtually lost to us. It's actually just going to be a simple heist movie. It's a jewel heist that has gone bad. So essentially, the best synopsis that I can give is that there are a group of robbers who pull off this heist that falls through. The jewels then are hotter than they normally would be, and they dump them into the bed of a pickup truck. However, the pickup truck takes off before they are able to recover them. And the entire movie then plays into them essentially just trying to get the jewels back. So, when it was released under Echo of Terror, or produced under Echo of Terror and created, they were not able to find anybody that was going to pick it up. Nobody was really interested in this heist movie that had 0 star power behind it. So, Sam Sherman views, the wonderful Sam Sherman, takes a look at Echo of Terror, and he recognizes Adamson's vision, Adamson's penchant for making this film and what it could be. So he then goes to somebody with that was affiliated with United Artists, who gives him an idea of a particular type of trend that was going on they could possibly exploit, and that was go-go dancing. So what they then decided to do was they added in some additional footage. They fleshed out the climax, added in these musical numbers, added in an extra murder that is actually probably the more sinister murder that takes place in the film, and then brought it forth as Psycho A Go-Go. So not only is it going to be this jewel heist movie that was then marketed and recut to find capital from the go-go dancing trend, it was also a vehicle for up-and-coming singer Tacy Robbins, because one of the things that Adamson had done was manage a nightclub where Tacy was a performer, and she was this up-and-coming singer, and so this movie was also a vehicle to sort of launch her career, because we have a total of, I believe it's 3 full musical numbers in this club, and I'm pretty sure 2 of them are the exact same song, if I'm remembering correctly. But the songs are good. I enjoy the songs. The go-go dancing numbers are fun. They're completely unnecessary, but they're not boring. I actually find them to be fun. And however, though, when they were completed and they brought it back, go-go dancing was then seen as passé. It had come and gone. Nobody was really interested in it. So then Sherman then goes to somebody that is affiliated with Allied Artists, who shows him that there is interest in their television distribution center to have it more of a horror and sci-fi slant, which then brings us the recut of The Fiend with the electronic brain. Now let's start very briefly with Psycho A Go-Go. In my opinion, if I'm trying to put Psycho A Go-Go and The Fiend with the electronic brain side by side, and figure out which one that I actually prefer, it's a bit of a hard choice for me. I think that if I was actually going to just stick with one and really try to just, stick to my guns on it, probably would go with Psycho A Go-Go, because in my opinion, Psycho A Go-Go is actually a very enjoyable film. I think it's a pretty good film, actually. One of the biggest things about it that makes it so captivating is Roy Morton's performance of Joe Corey, because Joe Corey is this psychotic, homicidal person who we actually see his tendencies in the very, very beginning of the film, because as the heist starts to go bad, one of the robbers, who is played by Adamson himself, ends up having a standoff with a security guard whereas he is injured. So instead of taking the extra time and extra labor to see his accomplice to safety, Joe Corey simply cuts the loose ends and kills him. And that's the first glimpse that we have of the psychotic nature of Joe Corey. And in Psycho A Go-Go, Joe Corey is really just seen as that crazy person, but then he actually becomes the robbery ring's vehicle to get their jewels back. Because the bed of the pickup truck that they have put it into is David Clark, who's portrayed by Kirk Duncan, and his wife Linda Clark, who is portrayed by Tacey Robbins, who is a singer at a nightclub. And he has the jewels in the bed of his truck, unbeknownst to him. It is his daughter Nancy's birthday. He hands her a very racially offensive singing doll, but she actually finds the jewels. They fall out of the bed. She finds it and stuffs it into her doll as her treasure. So she sequesters her treasure into the doll to where nobody can find it. So that's where it's this recover the jewels, where really, honestly, nobody except for the little girl has any idea where these jewels are. They just know that David Clark and his family are at the end of the rainbow, essentially. They are what is going to get them their jewels back. And none of this is spoiler territory, because this happens in the very beginning of the film. And all of the performances are actually fine. They're perfectly fine. In my opinion, Roy Morton's performance of Joe Corey is the pinnacle of the film. Apart from Tacey Robbins' musical numbers, which I enjoyed quite a bit, actually. But he has a weird portrayal of over-the-top hammy to actually very disturbing and sinister. And there's not really a middle ground. It's either one or the other, but it's actually very enjoyable, because when he is really just kind of going full ham sandwich, it's very fun. And when he is just kind of showcasing this dark, psychotic tendencies that are just bubbling instead of fully bursting, it's uncomfortable, and that's enjoyable to watch as well. So as I said, when this was released, the exploitative trend and the exploitative nature that they had recut this film into was completely gone. So there was really no reason, there was nobody that was going to pick it up. So in 1967, they re-released it after Sam Sherman had the conversation with the gentleman that was associated with Allied Artists. They recut the film, sort of. It was not actually a full recut, because all that they really did was film additional scenes and literally just kind of drop them into Psycho A Go-Go. And they're not completely random. There's one in particular, one of the murder that I was referencing in the beginning of the video. There's a scene in there that is perfectly placed because that murder follows. And what they did was basically just hype up Joe Corey's character and give him more of a backstory and make him more of the villain of the film than he sort of already was. And in this particular version now, we have a mad scientist slant with Dr. Howard Von Ard, werewolf, werewolf. And that's played by John Carradine. And I actually really, really like those scenes. They're more unnecessary than the musical numbers, and they are so cheesy because, I mean, we've got the wall is basically just a purple curtain. There is bubbling, frothy beakers of green liquid because mad scientist, and it's just fun. I just really actually enjoy it, and John Carradine is doing a fantastic job. So it gives more of a backstory into this sort of experiment that he was creating with was sort of recovering a victim's brain, a victim of brain damage. Sorry, the words escaped me. Trying to recover what was lost from somebody with severe brain damage. To where Joe Corey is now he is a military veteran who suffered incredible brain damage from shrapnel. And Joe Corey was the first successful experiment, unwillingly, of course, because he was completely brain dead. And the only other option was to have him in a vegetative state. So Dr. Howard Von Ard takes it upon himself to try this it's this weird like electronic device to where essentially the device is going to be taking over the parts of the brain that are no longer functioning. However, it didn't work out exactly as planned because wires are now crossed, beeps are now boops, and he's completely insane. So it gives a reason for his behavior. However, Joe Corey was a lot more sinister when we didn't know much about him. When he was, in a sense, the man with no name, if that sort of makes any sense to you. He was a lot more menacing in that aspect. But the reason why I'm even saying that I have a hard time choosing between the two is because there's one particular scene where Roy Morton does come back to portray Joe Corey, and it's where there's a scene when he confronts Dr. Howard Von Ard, and that particular scene is phenomenal. That is why I have such a hard time, because Roy Morton's performance in that scene is better than anything that he had done in Psycho A Go-Go. I adore that scene. I think that it is absolutely phenomenal. And that's what makes it such a hard toss-up for me. Now, everything else from Psycho A Go-Go is in The Fiend with the Electronic Brain, which is why, really, if you watch Psycho A Go-Go, you can just sort of skip through The Fiend with the Electronic Brain just to see the scenes that were added in and put it together in your mind how it changes that story. But everything else is still there. The musical numbers are there, all of the heist is there, and the climactic finish is still there. And the climax actually is very enjoyable because there's, for one, some very, very gorgeous shots around the Lake Tahoe area. A bit of spontaneous weather changing that occurs, and a bit of warnings that are a little bit too late when you consider how much snow they've already walked through. If you've seen the film, that will make sense. Just a bit of funny stuff, but yeah, I mean, all of it is still there. So that's what I'm saying, that it's as close to the original as it possibly could, because it's not completely re-edited. It was just additional scenes that were dropped in. And regardless, in my opinion, I think that they're both fun. Psycho A Go-Go, to me, by itself is probably going to be a better film. But The Fiend with the Electronic Brain, those segments that are in there, I love those segments. I love the mad scientist look. It's completely unnecessary, but the go-go dancing musical numbers were unnecessary too. Half of the things that Al Adamson has done, or even more than half, are completely unnecessary, but it's entertaining. And that scene with Roy Morton coming back to confront John Carradine is phenomenal, and that's what makes it such a hard toss-up. But in my opinion, guys, Psycho A Go-Go and The Fiend with the Electronic Brain, both of them are fantastic. I think that if you do just enjoy a straight heist movie, then I think that you will enjoy Psycho A Go-Go. Obviously, keep it in the mind of Al Adamson and the budget, and the budget cost of what he was working with, but I think that's actually a very, very good effort, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. And what I was talking about is that now you have Blood of Ghastly Horror, which was going to be the final, I guess not really final, because there was a TV version of The Fiend with the Electronic Brain that was put out, that was called The Man with the Synthetic Brain. And there is on The Fiend with the Electronic Brain, you do have an opening, an alternate opening with those title credits, and it's the most ridiculous, it's just very poor, just sort of like, ooh, look how spooky we are. It's just, watching this, that is not the movie that you're going to be getting, but it's fun nonetheless. But Blood of Ghastly Horror is really the final recut, and that is where it's more as a horror tale. The musical numbers are gone. Obviously, this is all just what I know from my own research. I have not watched the film yet because we're going to get there when we get there. But the musical numbers are gone. The heist is completely played down. And really, the scenes that exist from Psycho A Go-Go are used as flashbacks. So it's really a completely different film. So that's why I decided to go Psycho A Go-Go and The Fiend with the Electronic Brain and have those together instead of trying to do a triple bill with these in the format that it is here in the Adamson Masterpiece Collection box set. But guys, that is what I have for you today as we've gone through these two films, or this film and some additional scenes. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you're enjoying the idea of going through this box set collection with me, as I'm having a blast going through it. I want to take it slowly because there's a lot to go through here and it's easy to get burned out. So thank you all so very much for sitting down and going through this with me today. If you like this video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button for more additional content, such as every time that we're going to be going through one of these films, sale hauls, reviews, all that sort of stuff, with much, much more coming along the way. All of my social media and contact information can be found in the description box down below. But other than that, guys, that's all that I've got for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I also hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.